Hi, I'm Beth Gantz with the Small Business Development Center at Lorain County Community College, and we're going to do a Let's Chat today. And I'm joined by Pamela King from Pamela King Consulting. So thanks, Pamela, for joining us. We're going to be talking about time in your small business. But Pamela, please tell me more about, and our viewers more about your business.
Sure. So I call myself a small business optimizer. And what it is I work in short-term contracts, usually about 6 to 8 months. And I'm sort of your behind the scenes partner in crime. I provide done for you work. I build whatever it is you need the tool. So is it a system, a template, writing SOPs? And then the idea is with those tools, then the entrepreneur can move forward. And that's the foundation they need for all their success.
That's wonderful. I mean, I think most small businesses that I know could use the services that you're offering. So, but you and I were talking a few weeks ago, and we started talking about time for small business owners. And, I think when you're a small business owner, I mean, you do all the things, right? Even if you have some employees, you still do all the things. And, pretty soon it's like 3 o'clock. You're like, oh, I didn't get to that stuff or anything like that. So when we were talking, I thought, well, this could be a great topic and, wanted to talk to you more about how you audit and identify those time wasters because time is money, right? But also
Absolutely.
identifying these things helps you understand where you could outsource what you're doing to a business like yours. Or do I need to hire someone to do my marketing or something like that? So that's what I wanted to chat about today with you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, thank
great.
you so much for having me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that I recommend, no matter where you are, if you're a solopreneur, you have a team, you and your staff should be doing a time audit. And the whole idea is this is a tool. This don't beat yourself up. Don't be honest with it. This is just a method of reflection so that you can really dig in and see how your day goes. Because like you said, how often are you like, it's 3 o'clock already? I never had lunch. I spent all day on something. But then when we dig down, we can see where those time leaks are. And so
Yes.
that's what I think is most important is, you're allowed to take a brain break. Nobody's a robot. Nobody's effective 100% of the time. But if it's something you're choosing or it's something you value versus every time you get your water bottle, you have a long unscheduled conversation with a coworker. That's 10, 15 minutes. That's what we're really trying to identify and reduce, at least in this methodology.
Sure, sure, right. Or maybe doing something else to avoid the bookkeeping or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
procrastination, those
procrastination.
techniques,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So when you look at a time audit process, what does that mean? How would someone conduct one of these?
So you can be as formal or as loose as you care to be. So, I never want, the fear of like, oh, I got to make a chart. I got to do this thing. Don't let that be a barrier. So really the idea is that, if we're going in every day playing defense, you would instead take a little time at the beginning of, ideally, it should be a typical week. You don't want to do it if you're going to have a lot of trainings and that's not normal, or a big launch, or you've got a lot of personal stuff going on. The whole idea is really to look at what typical would be. And then this first category thing to do would be to kind of decide what are your categories of how do you think your day falls in. So this is where you're going to say, is it emails? Is it phone calls? Is it client work? Is it commuting? Any of those kind of things. And that's where you're going to have some control. Like some people may want to drill down and say, oh, it was phone calls with clients versus personal phone calls versus calls with my staff that may or may not fit for you. So
Mhm.
once you've designed your categories, you can do it on just scratch paper, graph paper. Some people want to, be fancy, but what's most important is that you lay it out ahead of time. That way, when you're in the week of your audit, you're not losing a lot of time to the tracking methodology itself.
Okay. And do you suggest that you do it just for a week, or should you do it for like 2 weeks or a month, depending on what kind of
I
business you have, or?
Yeah, so I would say in an ideal world, you would really track, I would say every 6 months, especially because
Oh,
most of us have a busy season and we have a slow season, whenever that is for you and your industry. So I wouldn't do it more than that. And I would do it for 5 days, unless you really are working on the weekend. If there's work being done, then seven's gonna, because otherwise your week's gonna be off. You'll be like, oh, I don't spend that much time in email, except for you spend all Saturday on email, or
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Right.
So I would say, yeah, like, and again, in a typical week, obviously there's highs and lows, but that would be gonna, it's gonna get, like I said, this is just a tool for measurement. So that's gonna give you your best perception. And from that, you can use that data to inform how you move forward.
So I love that because, at the beginning or a little bit ago, you said honesty is key here, right? And, we all get into social media scrolling. We all do that quick phone call or something like that, which
Mhm.
is fine. But you have to be honest that that was part of your day. And what am I really doing with my day? Right. And
Yes.
so I maybe a few more suggestions about getting that honesty, right? Because again, like as business owners, I could run to lunch and do an errand because I, kind of make my own schedule sometimes.
And as you should, like I'm, and that's it. I'm the same way. I love to go to the grocery store at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday because it is, that is when I own the place. I can be in and out. But then you make adjustments for that, or you're aware of it instead of saying, "Oh, I worked all day on that proposal." No, I didn't. I went to the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really do like that. Is there anything else? Like, should your team, if you have a team, should you sit down and track? Should everyone on your team do this to help, or should they help you identify things maybe you're doing that you don't realize you're
I
doing?
think, I mean, I think it could be I think it's obviously start at the root, whether you're a solopreneur or if you're the team leader of some kind, yes. And then from there, when you're making your decisions on how do we move forward, that would then be, well, let's see, who has capacity to take this on? Or if somebody's already, that's their zone of genius, or that's something they're already spending time on, like, why am I checking in and spending time on it if that's really not a task that's mine?
Yeah.
So I would say yes, but start with yourself and then use that to inform decisions going forward.
Yeah. So before we get into like how you would analyze this data, like when would you do this? Because I could see this being like, well, I'll start on Monday and like a diet, you don't, or something, right? Like something
Yeah.
like that. So when should you do this?
I mean, it doesn't have to be a Monday. I think
Yeah.
5 days, 7 days is going to really give you your best. And that's funny you said that. Yeah, like an eating plan, it could be do like a little Sunday night meal prep. Like you're gonna build out your schedule, maybe set some reminders in your phone. That would be the thing I'd say the most. The hardest is to remember. Some people, if you really want to drill down, you would every 15 minutes make a little notation of what you're
Oh,
doing.
wow.
I would say 30. 30
Okay.
is better. And that's why, again, that night before prep, kind of for the week, set the reminder, set them as repeating for that way when you're in your day, you're working, and you can just maybe either check a box or like write one word, write email or just an E for email, and then get back in. So you have that. But yes, it absolutely does not have to be a Monday. Don't let, we play those mind games with ourselves.
Yeah.
And to be honest, just, similar to if you say you were perfectly on track, is this tool going to have been efficient for you? Or,
Right.
if it's like, oh, well, I was only on for 10 minutes on social media and then I jump back onto what I'm doing, it's not going to be as effective.
Yeah. I really like the reminder thing because I didn't even think about doing that. I just thought like I'd sit down in the morning, go everything like, but that's really good because you get off track or something, a phone call comes up, and it's really good to track that, like, I was on this task, but I got interrupted for this. And what could I have done about that maybe when
Yeah.
you go into analyzing? So that's a really great tip. I really like that.
Oh,
And
thanks. And
like
you
I
can,
should have thought
sorry.
like it's so simple to think about, but
Well, thank you. And it's either some people like sound, some as a visual reminder. There's whether that's setting an alarm on your phone, or there's so many websites. So if it is just like all of a sudden like a little pop-up, log your
yeah,
time, like that way it can be quick and it doesn't derail your day. Because like that can be the thing, is if you're like, I'm spending all my time logging the time, I'm gonna throw that to the side and get back to it another. That we don't want that. We want it to be as quick and easy as possible.
yeah. Okay, so we've, gone through our week. We figured out we do all the things every day,
Yeah.
right? Or something like that, or scroll on social media too much, or, whatever. Um, you have this information. How do you analyze it? Like what would I look at this thing and go, okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I do all these things.
Yes. And so then it's kind of time to, I would say the first layer is to kind of sort things into, are they time wasters or are they a high priority? They do move my business forward. They are essential for what I'm doing. And you can kind of like, like we said, is it that you're procrastinating because there's something you don't want to do? Is it because your energy starts to lag, so you do those other things? I had a person I did this with a couple months ago. She'd never realized, she works from home, that she was letting her dog out like every 2 hours. And she has a young,
I
healthy-ish
do that.
dog. There's no reason. It was just anytime it signaled, she's like, oh, time to let the dog out. And she lived in a condo. She had to put on her shoes, down a flight of stairs, go outside. While out there, would chat with a neighbor. And it's like, of course, you have to let your dog out. And it's good to get up away from your desk, stretch your legs, talk to your neighbor. But do you need to do it every 2 hours? Could
Yeah.
we wait till every 3 or 4? Could that be a time while you take a personal phone call? Like, oh, I'll call back while I'm letting the dog out. Or go out with headphones in. That way you can wave to a neighbor, but be like, headphone, and then keep going. Or set an alarm so it is a little reminder and say, oh, that's my reminder. I've got a call coming up. Sorry to cut this short. So it's you got to live your life. But that was easily an hour a day, 5 hours a week that was just mindlessly lost. That with a few small tweaks, now it aligns better for what her ideal day looks like. And we're not saying you can't, but be a little more careful.
Well, yeah, because it takes time to then get back into the task, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the
So
time itself and then the getting back in.
yeah. So I feel like you're talking about me because I do I do that. So
You're the only one. Nobody
right,
else
right.
struggles with it.
Yeah, that's me and my dog. And so okay, so after like what then would be you've figured out that like okay, I took the dog out too much, or I'm too much time on this, or something like that. What are next steps then from the data you've collected?
Sure. You're going to reallocate, you're going to delegate, and you're going to consolidate. So the reallocating, right? That could be, I mean, the most obvious is email. Like, that's when people start to implement time blocking. Like, if you're this compulsive inbox checker, how many times are you in the email? And even if it's 2-3 minutes every time, does it change your mind? Then you take a couple minutes to get back into what you're doing. So maybe you say, I'm going to check my email first thing, and then I'm not going to touch it till later in the afternoon. That kind of stuff, just to kind of reduce falling down the rabbit hole.
Right.
And then you can look and see, well, what can be delegated? And that would actually probably be a really good time to have your team or your staff also look at their days. If they're like, how come you're working on the graphic design for this and I'm working on the graphic design for the, do we really need everybody's hands on this? Or, okay, I'm going to trust that it's yours. I'm going to stay out of it and I'm going to stay in my other piece. So all that delegating, and you can, there's all those things, right? The productivity hack, scheduling, your grocery pickup, setting some sort of automation using Dubsado, Asana, any of those things. And then really the last is to consolidate, is to break it down and just sort of say, okay, I'm going to kind of commit to myself that the afternoons are Facebook free, or that I'm really, going to turn off notifications so that I can do a deep dive and move stuff forward. So,
yeah. Well, this has been great because it's so simple, right? Yet it's not for us as business owners because again, we're responsible for all the things and we feel like we need to be involved in all the things every day. And you really don't. But what I like so much about this is there are individuals like yourself who can be that accountability partner and help people walk through this, because it's like anything. Sometimes you just need the support to get going or to kind of walk it through and have someone who's not emotionally connected to you to like go, you know what, you're spending too much time walking the dog, which is fine, but here's what you could be doing instead. And maybe contacting 3 more sales leads, right? Things like that.
absolutely.
So I think sometimes people are like, I don't need to do this. You actually, like, this is so important as a small business owner to do this.
Well, and I think that's it, is I think in like so many areas of our lives, we wait till it's really out of control. Like some people are like, I spent all day, it was a mess. I'm not doing. Don't let yourself get to that point. Like, don't wait till you're in that sort of red zone to put these things in place, because you can recapture even someone who feels they're strong at time management. It's not bad to reflect on, to learn, and then, and what I love doing is I help create the documents and the tools that people use so they can trust the delegating. Because, right, we tell ourselves, no one, it's just easier if I do it. It only takes them, I'll just shoot this quick email, I'll just double check this. Or, well, before that goes out to the client, I need to look at it the last time. Those are times that we can recapture. It's not just Facebook, social media, whatever, filling our water bottles. Those are the easy ones. But those other things of like, well, I need to have my hands on it. No one can do it to my level. If you then, when you see the time that you can recapture, that often helps say, okay, this is worth the investment. This is worth the training for my staff. Because if it's giving you an hour of your day, an hour of your, 5 hours a week, that's pretty revolutionary.
It is. I mean, those are extra networking events. Again, extra time to make sales calls. Just, start to create a new product or service, or go to the grocery store for yourself, right? Like, I mean,
Be able to, whatever, go for a walk in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Enjoy, like if it's like, oh, I took an hour walk versus letting the dog out 4 times. Like, yes, you're outside, but which one's going to fill your cup in a better way? And that's what all this is look, I'm certainly not saying you're not allowed to take a break. You're not allowed to stretch your legs. You're allowed to, whatever it is. But is it because you're choosing it and it's aligning for you? Or is it just leaking and getting away from you? That's really the most important part.
Absolutely. And I'm a big believer that when you do this, you actually, I mean, can't guarantee it, but will probably make more money or lower your expenses or something.
Well, or reduce your frustration. Because at the end of the day, right, that's that decision fatigue. You're like, I've done 1,000 things already today. But did you have to? Did you need to? Or that many transitions? If you can reduce the transitions, that will reduce that mental fatigue as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Pamela. I really appreciate it. And I challenge everyone watching this to do a time audit and see what you're really doing in a week in your small business.
Absolutely.
As always, the SBDC is available to help you through any stage you're at in your business. And I look forward to another Let's Chat.
All right. Thank you so much.